All right. Well, hello, everyone. It's great to be with you today. If you're here for our Atlassian, our Valiantys Atlassian AI webinar. Welcome. Glad to have you guys here with us. And just want to start off with some introductions. And so I want to hand it over to Joshua to introduce himself.
Hey guys, yeah, I'm Joshua Dimitri. I'm a software development manager at Valiantys. I spend a lot of time talking with our customers and kind of learning about the use cases and building solutions around those use cases for customers, especially around AI. So I'm going to be able to kind of fill in some of the information about how we build some of the customizations and solutions on top of Atlassian products with AI.
Awesome. Thanks, Joshua. And then my name is Sam Ayers. I'm a delivery manager here, and Atlassian expert. And yeah, ultimately work with folks just like you, various companies of all shapes and sizes to deliver predominantly Atlassian products within their respective organizations. And so I'm very close to working with clients and working with the tool set, and excited to show you guys some of those features within Atlassian Intelligence today within Atlassian tools. Awesome. Well, with that, before we jump in, just wanted to spend maybe 30 seconds to a minute of just kind of sharing about Valiantys as a whole and just kind of who we are and what we do. So we've worked with and been directly a partner with Atlassian for over 16 years. We are the Atlassian's first global partner, and then we have over 2,000 customers worldwide. We're a 12-time, actually now 13-time, sorry, Atlassian Partner of the Year award winner. And just a couple of other things. We've got over 52% more certified consultants than the second largest partner. So in other words, we have a lot of people within our organization who are very comfortable within the ecosystem and 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 just, ultimately we are also a platinum solutions partner with Atlassian. And what that means is we have a deep understanding of Atlassian's products, as well as the experience in implementing and customizing these products for our clients. And so that also means that we provide a series of services. Atlassian Consulting, our consulting services specialize in the full Atlassian suite of tools, as I mentioned earlier, catering to organizations of various sizes. Training is another one of the feathers in our cap. As an organization, we provide extensive training programs, including webinars like the one you're viewing now. We also offer separate boot camps for Jira Software, Jira Service Management, Confluence, Jira Line, which are designated for admins specifically. And we also offer agile and safe training as well. And in the custom development wing, which Joshua is a representative of, we have in-house software developers that create customized solutions from spanning from app development to crafting unique user interfaces that live on top of Atlassian products. So if the solution you need, in short, doesn't exist, this team can help you make it a reality. So with that, we also help with licensing as well. So even if you just need licenses for your Atlassian products, feel free to reach out to us. We can help you take advantage of some discounts in that realm as well, being an Atlassian Platinum Solutions partner. All right, so as promised, enough about us. Let's talk about what we're going to cover during our meeting today. And we're going to cover what is Atlassian Intelligence, discuss some high-level pricing information, have some demonstrations of the tool set and some of the features therein, talk about what's coming soon in that realm, and then also talk about, or Joshua is actually going to talk about Atlassian Intelligence in the realm of custom solutions. Then we'll talk about just some upcoming webinars and events that we have that might pique your interest. And then hopefully, and the plan will be that we have about 10 to 15 minutes at the end for some Q&A. And just as a reminder too, as we're moving through the content, feel free to hit the Q&A button down at the bottom of the Zoom session, drop in your questions, and we'll plan on tackling them at the end. Feel free to post them, in other words, while they're still fresh in your mind. All right, so with that, we like to start off by just talking about Atlassian Intelligence on a high level, just in case you're not familiar with the features that kind of are involved with this tool. So Atlassian Intelligence, we always try to answer kind of what is it and how does it work? So, on a high level, Atlassian Intelligence helps teams accelerate work, increase efficiency, and provide value faster using AI. So, for example, it allows you to generate and transform content, summarize critical details, and then find the work that you need fast, and much, much more. Those are kind of the big, broad stroke features, though, that we see folks using more often than not. Atlassian Intelligence leverages artificial intelligence developed internally and from OpenAI. It uses what Atlassian refers to as the teamwork graph, which is unique to your team's project or service work, along with internal language models and OpenAI to deliver results specific to your organization's context. So, diving a little bit deeper into how does it work, Atlassian Intelligence, or in other words, combines state-of-the-art models developed by OpenAI with the power and data inside the Atlassian platform. So in other words, this means that Atlassian provides a native artificial intelligence experience that's contextual to you, your teams, the workflows they're in, and it does all of that while respecting the privacy of your data. So with that, let's talk about the technology and data security aspects of this. And this is something that we get asked about a lot, and just want to hopefully demystify a little bit today. So, as we know, there's still a fair amount of uncertainty around AI nowadays, and we want to address one of the main questions that comes up with this tool is how's the data that I put in being handled? And I will say right on the outset that Atlassian Intelligence is opt only at the org admin level. And when I say org admin, I'm speaking specifically within Atlassian permissions hierarchy. So the topmost level of your permissions within Atlassian tools is your org admin, and it has to be intentionally switched on, and it can be done on a product by product basis. So just to clarify, you can have Atlassian Intelligence features turned on for your Jira Service Management project, but then switched off for your Jira software project or vice versa, just as an example. Inputs aren't stored. So none of the inputs from AI are stored or used by Atlassian or their partners to train their models, their partners being us. Inputs and outputs in this case refer to the data users type into Atlassian products, which are in turn analyzed by Atlassian Intelligence, just to clarify. It respects permissions and data residency. So Atlassian's intelligence respects all existing permissions within your Atlassian products and data residency. So for example, Atlassian Intelligence is going to respect whether or not you have access to Jira issues, for example, that you're searching for. All data is processed and transmitted in accordance with Atlassian's privacy policy, also the data processing addendum, and then also the GDPR commitment. Currently, SOC 2 is not supported, nor is ISO 27001. However, we're expecting SOC 2 and ISO to be supported by the end of the year. So keep your eyes out. HIPAA is currently not supported, and then it also leverages OpenAI just as a cliff note or a bookend to what I'm speaking about here on the security front. Atlassian Intelligence does not currently leverage large language models from OpenAI, or it does currently leverage large language models from OpenAI. Each data request is sent, however, to OpenAI individually over an SSL encrypted service to process and send back to Atlassian, so secure as possible. All right, let's just talk very quickly about pricing here, and then I want to jump into some of the features that I'm excited to show you guys today. So very quickly, it's only available on the cloud. So sorry, data center folks, data center and server folks, AI is only available on the cloud and only on premium and enterprise editions. And then currently there's no limits on usage. However, we expect limits to be added in the future based on what we've heard from Atlassian. Okay, at this point, we'd like to demonstrate some of Atlassian Intelligence's functionality, and we're going to start by looking at a few of the more prominent features available within Jira today. I will say on the outset, we're not going to be able to go through all of them with the time that we have allotted today. Treat this webinar as more as an introduction, and then hopefully whetting your appetite to go in and explore, maybe start a demo instance of your own with Atlassian Intelligence enabled, and start testing and vetting out some of these features to see if they work for your organization and your organization's context. So let me jump over to a project that I've created. And if you're familiar with the UI within Atlassian or Jira product or Jira projects, for example, you know that this is a Jira work management project. And effectively what I've done is just created a fictional marketing project that has a few different issue types that would be more on the marketing kind of contextual front of like marketing asset. We do have epics represented here and then some tasks and subtasks, et cetera. But ultimately, I've created a project that maybe a fictional marketing team could use. And in this case, I've created issue types that would help a marketing team do some marketing and a campaign launch effectively. And so I want to talk about how you can generate and transform content first. And so under that umbrella of generating, creating, transforming content, we kind of see folks using either creating content on a prompt, rephrasing content, or restructuring content. And let's look at an example of each of those now. So with that, let me jump into one of our issues here. We've got AMC-4 here. And the issue description starts out as upgrade to billing system now requires us to launch a new marketing campaign. And we've got a good summary and a relatively good description, but let's say we want to branch this description out a little bit more to make it what I would say probably a little bit more actionable. We don't really know how we're going to do it all the way. And so with that, what I can do is go in and edit this description, highlight the text, click the AI button, and let me give it a variable here of add some ideas for how to approach leveraging social media for a marketing campaign. And then hit enter. And with that, you can see very, very quickly, I've got a whole list, a whole bulleted list that I can interact with. Let's say I like this content. I can either choose to replace my existing description or append it at the bottom by clicking insert below. I do so, and voila, my description is updated in seconds. Let's rephrase some of this content. So for example, I could either highlight the text that I just created, or even one of the comments that I made down here. So if I go into edit and I can say, is anyone reading these? Maybe this sounds a little snarky. I can say, change tone to be a little bit more empathetic, maybe. And I have, is anyone out there taking a moment to read these? Anyone out there? I like that. It's a little bit more hopeful sounding. And so you can see very quickly, either in comments or if I go up here to my description, highlight some of this text, same story. I interact with my Atlassian Intelligence button here, and I can summarize or improve the writing overall. I'd be asking AI to improve what it's already done, and that's fine. I can. And then again, either replace or insert below. So you get the point. Very quickly, we can rephrase content as well. Restructuring content, kind of neat. Let me go to our list here and highlight all of it for this example. And let's tell AI to restructure the list alphabetically based on the first character in each line. Give it something a little bit more complex. And sure enough, it does so in short order. I can also say, and let me just actually insert below. So now I've got my alphabetical list. Let's say I don't want a bulleted list. Now I could just go up here and interact with my numbered list button, but I could also ask Atlassian Intelligence to, let's say, convert this to a numbered list. Hit enter. and it does so quite easily. So a lot of options in the realm of restructuring content. So in conclusion, if I were to save this, we have a much more operable task, or I would argue a much more operable task for our team. It's much more detailed than what we started with, and it's all done in a matter of seconds, minus all of my talking, obviously, leveraging the power of Atlassian Intelligence and its ability to create, rephrase, and restructure content. I've got some extra features that I want to talk about, just kind of rapid fire here. One of them that I selfishly am very excited about as a Jira admin myself is the ability to use AI, Atlassian Intelligence, to create automation rules. And why I'm excited about it is because if you're an admin like me, you know you can have a complicated rule that has a ton of branches, and you ultimately know how to architect the rule, but it just can be time consuming to do so click by click. So I want to show you how AI can actually create an automation rule really, really quickly, very similarly to how you saw it restructuring content. It can structure an automation rule pretty fast. So if I go into the automation section of our project settings, I have this now flashy create with AI button here that I can interact with. And I have this prompt that I can immediately type something into. So let's create a rule that a project manager might use. When all subtasks are completed, add a comment to the parent letting the assignee know. This is a rule we see all the time. Hit enter and see what happens. Perfect. So just walking through the logic really quickly. When an issue's transitioned to done, we have a branch rule, looks for the parent. If the subtasks equal done, match a specified JQL, then add a comment to the issue. Done. I could publish this rule, maybe make a couple of minor tweaks, but maybe not. Maybe I don't need to. And then I'm off to the races. Now, there are some cases where I've messed around with this and I've seen that Atlassian Intelligence can kind of get you close to creating the rule you need, but maybe not all the way based on the rule's complexity. And that's okay. I think the idea is that it's still saving me a bunch of time building the rule versus building it manually. And here's an example of just that. So using our marketing team campaign example, what if we need a marketing asset, meaning that issue type that I showed you earlier that needs to be labeled in a certain way and assigned a subtask under it by default based on text that's in the issue summary. So there's a fair amount there. Let's actually just do that. Let's throw all that into the prompt. And we can say when an issue type of marketing asset is created and social media is in the issue summary, add the social underscore media label and create a subtask under the same issue with target influencers in the issue summary. Wow, asking it to do a lot. Let's see what it does here. Okay, so in about the same amount of time, with a much more complex input, I have when issues created, issue type equals marketing asset, summary contains social media, then edit the labels. It does really well up until this point, adds the label and everything here. The only thing it wasn't able to do was actually create those subtasks. And again, that's okay. This gets me about 85 to 90% there because then I can just plug in the subtasks that I need, add any relevant fields, click publish, and I'm ready to go. So just want to highlight some cases it gets you exactly what you want. In other cases, it saves you about a bunch of time, just getting you about 85 to 90% there. All right, so let's go back to our project here. And let's just show you a couple of other features and then we'll jump into Confluence. So AI also, this is a really powerful feature that I can see and have seen a lot of folks use already very successfully is the ability to search for issues very quickly without having to navigate or know how to use Jira query language for more complex queries. And so with that, let me just show you that functionality. If we go to view all issues here, we have this AI button. And same thing, I've got a prompt that I can interact with. So let's say search for all issues assigned to me, and that also have the word webinar in the summary, and hit enter and see what happens. Nice. So very quickly, again, without having to know Jira query language, and this is a relatively simple query, but that being stated, much faster than having to click through the basic menus and drop downs. You can just type in the prompt exactly what you want it to do. Something too that is a bit nebulous and difficult to interact with sometimes are anything date-based or queries that are date-based, specifically in kind of the JQL realm. And so what we can do is let's try a different query. Let's go back to our AI button. Let's try a date-based one. All issues assigned to me that, and let's say, and were created last month, and see what it does. Wow, perfect. Gets me a succinct list of all of those issues created within the last month and also assigned to me. And then you can also see again, if you don't know JQL, this is where you can get kind of in the weeds. Okay, am I using the greater than equal symbol? Am I using the start of month? You know, and then I've got to put a -1. There's again, if you're a Jira admin, you know the date queries can get hairy fast. And so this is where AI really shines for me on a purely selfish basis. Okay, with that, as promised, let's pivot to Confluence. And so sorry for the very stark contrast between dark mode and white mode light right now. Hopefully I didn't blind any of you. So let's look at some of the features therein. And very similarly, I want to jump into generating and transforming content, just like I showed you within Jira. And with that, we can do so by prompt, rephrasing the content, or restructuring. And so creating content based on a prompt. So this is again, fictional marketing team space that is adjoining to my Jira work management project. And let's go ahead and pretend we're, just for a moment. So now that I've told you we're a marketing team, let's pretend we're a development team. And let's pretend that we're about to jump into Agile Scrum ceremonies. And I'm a Scrum Master. And it may be helpful to have an outline for the ceremonies my team can follow, or at least know where we're going to go. And so imagine you're going to reach a consensus with other Scrum Masters on how ceremonies should be conducted. Let's create a new page. And we'll hold off on giving our page a title, but we can say, um, click our button here and let's say create an outline for Scrum ceremonies and hit enter and see what happens. So very quickly, we have a summary that we could take right into a meeting with our group and start at least have a skeletal structure of what we want to talk about. So I can click insert, and then I've already got a page. I just got to give it a title. We can say Scrum, Ceremonies, Outline, and click Publish. And we've got a page that we can interact with already and fill out. Going back to our marketing example, let's create another page. Let's say that we want to create a grassroots marketing campaign. I'll add a new page, same story. I can click Write, and let's say provide steps to develop a grassroots marketing campaign and hit enter. And very quickly, again, we have an outline that we can take with, chop it up, use whatever we want to use, and move on with life. And I'll say, give it a title. Wait, let's go back and insert first. And then publish. In the realm of rephrasing content, let's jump to this page here. And what I can do, just to find some text here that we want to work with, let's say we don't like how negative this might sound to some folks. The company's been losing customers for the past 3 years. What an opener, right? So what we can do is highlight this, click improve writing, And maybe we like how that's written, but maybe we want to voice it in a different way. And so what we could do is refine and then change the tone to be maybe a little bit more neutral, perhaps. Yeah. Company has observed a decrease in customer retention over the past 3 years, a little bit softer of a blow. And so we could choose whether or not we want to replace that or insert below. And so very quickly we can change the tone of our text. In the realm of restructuring content, something that I use a lot as somebody who often is a project manager on projects or a project lead on projects are meeting notes. And we know that AI can create meeting notes for us through our various chat software mediums. But sometimes I'm leading a call, but then also quickly trying to jot down notes, and they end up looking as horrible as these, where it's half-baked thoughts, not a ton of cohesion, but maybe very quickly I need to pull some action items out of these meeting notes. And so if I click edit and highlight the whole page, there's this really cool feature that I like where if I click the intelligence button, scroll down just a little bit, it's the find action items button, which is kind of fun to use. And very quickly I can insert below and then obviously assess if these make any sense. Again, I'm not giving AI a ton of quality to mull through here, but at least gives me something that I can work with or at least edit and kind of refine rather quickly, and I don't have to type all of this out. So if I click update, then I've got meeting notes that still don't make a ton of sense, but maybe action items that make a little bit more sense very quickly. And then last but certainly not least, I want to show you a very quick feature that is really helpful. So within this page, I can click edit and I can summarize the content. So maybe this is, not only is it all over the place, but I can click the AI button and then summarize the writing and see if AI can make a sense or make sense of anything that I've put out there. And you can see it's much more succinct. So maybe my notes are all over the place. If I'm taking notes, maybe they're super wordy. This simplifies the text that I've compiled here. And ultimately I can determine again whether or not it's meaningful, still makes sense, etc and replace or insert below. Additionally, in the realm of summarization, if I close the page, or actually let's just hit update, up at the top, you do have the summarize functionality on already published pages. And so if I go to maybe this page, just to change it up a little bit, on my release readiness page, I can click summarize, and it takes what is a relatively long page full of a fair amount of content and succinctly puts it into 5 different bullet points that I can adjust really quickly. I could see this being very helpful if you're an executive late to a meeting and you've got 3 pages of an agenda that you need to go over and you just need the cliff notes. This would be your go-to feature for sure. All right, with that, let's jump back to our presentation and just talk about a few things that are coming soon, not only in the realm of Jira, but also in the realm of Confluence and also other products that we haven't touched on today, just again to hopefully whet your appetite for features that are available to you on the premium and enterprise levels across the ecosystem. So you can see what we have available today, searching for issues, summarizing comments, generating a list of suggested child issues based on the details of a parent issue. That's interesting. Reformatting Jira descriptions, which is what you guys saw today. Coming soon in the realm of Jira, we've got the ability to reference Jira tickets and prompts, which would be really interesting to see. On the Confluence side, you can define words, generate a summary like what we showed you of action items, summarize pages, comments, search for answers, create rules using natural language, create actions and templates and components. A lot of things to test and interact with. And then we've got a fair amount coming down the pipeline within Confluence to just keep your eye and finger on. Referencing Confluence pages and Jira tickets and prompts, similarly what we saw on the Jira side. I find this one really interesting and kind of want to see that. Also, organizing in group ideas or grouping ideas in whiteboards. Summarizing a whiteboard, that should also be really interesting. So a lot coming down the pipeline in the realm of Jira and Confluence, but not at the exclusion of some other applications as well. So everything I shared in the slideshow is ultimately pulled from this Atlassian documentation that I've observed over the past several months is getting updated very, very quickly. I would say in probably the month by month basis, but stuff that we haven't gotten into and Josh is going to talk about on a high level, Jira Service Management, lots of features available within this tool, lots of features coming down the pipeline. Same thing, Jira Product Discovery, there's been some development there, Trello, Bitbucket, and even Atlassian Analytics if you're on the enterprise tier of Atlassian products. So again, just trying to at least pique your interest and let you know that these features aren't just uh, excluded to Jira and Confluence. All right. Well, with that, I would now like to hand you over to the very capable hands of Joshua Dimitri, who's going to dive into some of the AI features within Jira Service Management and in the realm of custom development. So, Joshua, take us away.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. All right, so I want to briefly touch a little bit on Jira Service Management and then get into a little bit more information around how this kind of affects the overall architecture of our cloud ecosystem and kind of what it means for how we collaborate, how we take our data across the organization and bring it all together. So for Jira Service Management, the main thing I want to point out is that a lot of the features that are available in Jira are also available here. So what you're normally used to being able to do on a Jira ticket, like Sam walked through, you can also do in JSM. But we also have this concept of virtual agents. So obviously, when we talk about service management, we're thinking a lot about how can we use AI to reduce the workload, increase efficiency on our support teams, and really just to handle a lot of those easy tasks without so much friction, so that the more complex tasks are what our support team is actually paying attention to. So virtual agents are a way for us to have external facing tools where we're able to use it to kind of match the intent of different requests and categorize them. And as you can see this diagram here, basically, if the confidence of that categorization is high, we can maybe take some action on it or add some context. If you want to learn more about virtual agents, we can kind of talk about that further, so reach out to us. If you've been around the Atlassian world at all, you've probably also heard about the product called Rovo. I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end of this webinar, and we have another one coming up next week that we can give you information about that is entirely around Rovo as well. But I will be talking about that in a little bit here. So, hold tight on the Rovo conversation that takes this idea of virtual agents and having agents that can take action for you from just this external facing Jira Service Management tool to everything inside the organization. So if I kind of keep going in our presentation, this next little thing is just a slide to say beyond work management. And this is really just to point out that I want to take what we're looking at here beyond just the bounds of what we think of as what our Jira and Confluence and JSM is typically going to be accomplishing. What we're talking about is artificial intelligence. It's AI, right? This is the kind of big buzzword of the entire tech industry. And everyone out there is looking for how can I integrate AI into my process and how can I capitalize on all of those different things throughout the tech world with AI inside of my environment. And so it kind of goes to the conversation of can Atlassian Intelligence solve that for me across the organization? And I'll walk through a little bit about how that can work. So what I want to start with is talking about kind of the old way and with Atlassian Intelligence, what that looks like. So this section on the left here, the old way for building this out, this is what it would look like if, as an organization, as an enterprise, you wanted to create your own internal AI tooling. This is what you would need to do in order to have all the benefits of AI and of the ability to create and generate and restructure and summarize this content. If you wanted to create that yourself internally, it would take this, which is that you'd have to, first of all, have all your Atlassian tools along with maybe all your custom apps and data sources. Maybe you have a data lake inside of your enterprise. Maybe you have other SaaS products that are out there. You would then need to build some sort of custom data store. You'd have to take all the information from both the Atlassian and non-Atlassian tools and compile them all into a central location. Then you would also need to build some sort of custom application to write in the prompts. So where Sam was walking through Atlassian Intelligence and how you can just highlight text and ask it for insights and summaries, you'd have to build that yourself as well. And you have to also handle the large language model or however you wanted to process that to get the information out of it and actually utilize AI to do your own negotiation with OpenAI, or you'd have to use your own tooling internally to accomplish that. So obviously, this is a very high friction. This is out of the question for any company that is not extraordinarily large, but it is also even for a very large enterprise a lot of friction, and it requires potentially, 2 to 3 different development teams to maintain. This is a large effort, and the benefit that you get out of this is not even to the same degree as something like Atlassian Intelligence, because as Sam was walking through those features, you can just go to a random Jira issue or a Confluence page and highlight some text and ask it questions. You can go to the search bar directly and ask for things, and it'll respond using AI. And if we were to build this out ourselves, we're not going to get that, right? We're going to have to go to some separate place and build our own tooling, and it's not going to be quite as integrated. So that moves us to the right side of the screen, which is with Atlassian Intelligence. It basically just breaks down that middle section. So we no longer need to build all of this ourselves. We just have access to it integrated directly as Sam was showing. But the problem that this brings up now is, what about those external applications? And this goes back to where I was talking about how I want to recontextualize Atlassian Intelligence to not just be about your Atlassian data. We're talking about how can we use Atlassian as a cloud platform and Atlassian Intelligence to really create a central source of truth for the way that you do work across your enterprise and across your organization of whatever size, really. So it's really not a, ideal end state to lose access to the data from these custom apps and these external sources, because I actually have really important information there. My teams work out of Jira, but a lot of the content gets generated maybe somewhere else, and maybe other SaaS products or just internal tools that we've developed. So where do we go from there? And we're going to go to using the Atlassian developer platform called Forge. Now, there's a lot more content that we could talk about here. I could talk about Forge for many webinars long amount of time. I don't want to go that deep into it here because that's not really what we're here to talk about. But I think it's really important context to show that because we're using Atlassian Cloud and the cloud platform, we have access to Forge, which is the developer platform that is built on top of Atlassian Cloud. What it allows us to do is create our own custom tooling, custom applications, custom connectors. It basically becomes the central piece of connection for all of our tools and all of our processes and all of our data. So now we have those custom apps and those external sources. We can use Forge, we can use that developer platform to pull in all of that data to our Atlassian world and then be able to use Atlassian Intelligence on it. The really cool thing about Forge is everything you're building here, we hear the words custom, we hear custom solutions or software development, we're building these custom things, and we think that's going to be a lot of overhead, it's going to be a lot of things to maintain, infrastructure costs. And Forge is really cool in the sense that everything you build can be hosted on Atlassian servers. So as I'm talking about all these different pieces, keep in mind that everything here truly has no gray box in the middle where you've got all of those servers you have to maintain, all the different apps and development teams. We're going to be hosting this on Atlassian servers, and you'll have a development team maybe that would work on it, or maybe you bring in a company like Valiantys and we can help you build out some of those tools. And once we build out that solution, it's hosted on Atlassian servers, and you no longer have to maintain your own infrastructure for it. So what this has gotten us back to now is where we have all of our Atlassian tools, and they all have access to AI. They all have access to Atlassian Intelligence. They have access to analytics, all the other Atlassian tools as well. But now through Forge, we also once again have access to AI insights and AI summaries, AI searching, all of the different pieces with our external data as well. So other SaaS products, other custom applications, other things that we might want to build in our organization. This is where that contextualization happens of we're no longer just talking about Jira data and Confluence data. We're using Atlassian Intelligence and the Atlassian Cloud Platform to build a connected business. So we are going to use all of these pieces to create that central source of truth. I want to keep going a little further and show a bit of an example of where we've utilized this to kind of an even further extent from there, which is we can actually go further than just integrating data into the platform, but we can develop full scale solutions on top of Atlassian Intelligence and on top of the Atlassian Cloud Platform. And it gives us a lot of power from that capability. This is Fleet Manager. The screenshot is from an application that right now you can see it has a bunch of UFOs showing there, but normally those are cars, and it was for an auto manufacturer where we built this system on top of their Atlassian platform to allow the users to reserve vehicles from like a dealership, for example. So if you needed a loaner vehicle, the user for this application could go in, they could reserve a vehicle And what it would do behind the scenes is that reservation would get stored as a JSM ticket. So on the right here, you can see this. It's a bit small text, but these are JSM requests for different reservations for these different UFOs. So whenever you're actually interacting with this application, there is the Jira bar at the top, but other than that Jira bar, and if you use this as a JSM portal, you actually can remove that bar entirely. You would never know you're using an application built on top of the Atlassian cloud platform, right? You're just looking at the Valiantys UFO Fleet Manager. But behind the scenes, all of this information is stored in JSM assets. All of the requests are being made through JSM requests. And what that means is that now we can use Atlassian Intelligence on that data. So because we have stored and centralized our data in the Atlassian platform, we now, by virtue of doing that, have access to AI on top of all of that data. So where we would normally have had to spend, months, years, however long it would take to build all of the AI platform inside of our business to get that benefit, we just turn on Atlassian Intelligence, build our app, and all of a sudden we have, AI on top of the entire thing. Where now I can go through, I can search for reservations with the AI search. I can, get summaries of maybe which are the most common reservations. I can get insight on that data. I can do everything that Sam walked through in those features against the data of my custom application. And this is where we can kind of go beyond that Jira and Confluence data into our full scale application solutions. So the last thing I want to talk about really is what about Rovo? And Rovo is kind of a buzzword getting thrown around with Atlassian products, all around right now because it's one of the newest products from Atlassian. Rovo is another separate product from Atlassian Intelligence. So this is, related to Atlassian Intelligence, but it's not the same product. It is kind of built on top of it. But what it does is it actually gives us the tools that we would need to integrate in the ways that I've been talking about even further to the rest of the business. So Rovo is going to have kind of some main components to it. You'll see through this diagram, I still have, my left side of all these regular Atlassian tools. In the middle, I've got Rovo and I've got Forge. And then I've got all my custom tooling and external applications on the right. I have the same pattern we've been following. But in the Rovo section, you'll see I have search, I have chat, and I have custom agents. So search, chat, and agents are the main components of Rovo. And so when you see the Rovo product, it really means the collection of those three tools. The search tool is essentially an enterprise search tool. So search is actually going to allow you to, search not only your Jira and Confluence data, but it can also search through external connections like Google Drive and SharePoint, maybe these other tools that you might have access to somewhere else. You want to go off and search all the context across the board for everything, not just your Atlassian tools, and Rovo Search can handle that. Rovo Chat is essentially, when we think of AI and we think of Chat GPT, think of Rovo Chat as, Chat GPT, but supercharged with your Atlassian data, right? You're going to be able to go into this chat window on your instance, and you can ask it questions about the data in your instance. So if you go to a Confluence page, for example, and ask it for summaries of that content, or ask it questions based on like HR policies. That's a good example to use. Is let's say you have a Confluence space that has all of the policies for your HR department. You can have a chat window pop up where you can ask it a question where you're essentially asking HR the question, but you're really just using Rovo to get that information out of your actual policy documents in your Confluence space. Now, the third area here is agents, and custom agents in particular are going to be really, really powerful for how we can use Rovo across the business and how it ties into AI. Agents are essentially a teammate that you can use with AI. So what I mean by that, this kind of AI as a teammate concept, is that agents can take action on your behalf as if they were a user. So what you can actually do is create an agent with a set of prompts, with a set of information, and also a set of particular documents or spaces or bits of information it has access to. And you can create a custom tailored agent or teammate that your developers, your Jira admins, just any user of your system can utilize to get answers about things, but also to take action. So let's take that HR example as one that we can really look into. Maybe we also had a custom agent that was able to not only understand the HR policies, let's say around vacation policy, but this agent can also actually create a vacation request based off of those policies when you ask it to help you with that. So we can kind of go even further to taking action now on that information. This is where we take everything we're talking about and kind of multiply it by 10 in the terms of how much power we get out of it. Because now what we're talking about doing is using AI to handle all of the mundane tasks across the business and using Rovo to handle that so that all of your employees are now focusing on the complex tasks and focusing on what actually needs to be thought about more critically and use human interaction to work on. And even in those tasks, we can use agents. For example, we could have an agent set up so that whenever you create a ticket, it adds a comment and gives you some context on tickets that might be similar to it, so you can get further context on that issue. So there are a lot of things we can do there. Agents can also tie into automations. We can use Forge to develop custom agents that can actually do actions for any other tool as well. Let's say you want to have a JSM portal where somebody makes a request, and if they say, hey, like our AWS instance is down, we need to restart that. Maybe the Rovo agent sees, hey, I know how to do that, and it'll just go restart the instance, right? We can actually create any tooling that we would ever want to build and use Rovo as the AI connector into it. Now, I'm obviously just scratching the surface here, and I haven't actually, gone and clicked around in an instance to show you all of these things. And that's because this is, kind of a introduction to Rovo in our Atlassian Intelligence webinar. There is going to be that webinar that there's a link to in the chat already. It's, a week from today or at 11 a.m. Central. There are a couple other sessions of it as well if you happen to be in a different region other than North America. But at 11 a.m. Central, a week from today, I will be diving deep into Rovo, showing you, how do we actually build Rovo agents? What does this mean for our business? Kind of digging deeper into the things I'm talking about and introducing here. But I thought it was an important thing to talk about, even in the context of Atlassian Intelligence, because this is that next evolution of using AI across your business and really shows how we don't have to build these things in-house. We can actually get the full benefit of a full suite of AI products without having to, build that from scratch. And we can use Rovo and use Atlassian Intelligence to do that. So one more thing to talk about here is specifically Rovo through automations. And I, added this in here because I just get really excited about the fact that we can use Rovo agents in an automation. And what I mean by that is with Jira automation already being this, very rich platform and mature capabilities of having automation built into your system. And in cloud, we've seen automation for Jira grow into this very mature tool that allows us to do a lot of things. As Sam was showing, we can even use AI now to help us create those more quickly. We can actually now, as part of our automation, access a Rovo agent. So the way that we can interface with a Rovo agent in a lot of cases is similar to chat, where we can ask that Rovo agent a question and we get a response. So I can create a custom agent, and actually as part of my automation, I can ask it a question and get a response. And based on that response, I can take different action. So like one of the things I did with this recently was for a legal team that wanted to prioritize the tasks of different issues that are being created in JSM. I created a Rovo agent that would scan the summary and the description of all the JSM requests that were being made. And if they had any context about, let's say, a contract, they were top priority. And if they were, kind of just internal communication, then they were low priority and everything in between. And I used an automation to do that. So when an issue was created, it would ask this agent that I created, what is the priority of this ticket based on the description and summary that it passed in. And then I used automations to handle that response in the different ways that made sense. So really cool things you can do here. I'll show examples just like that in the webinar next week. So I'd be happy to see you there so we can dive deeper into those examples and actually, look at it and see that running. But it's some really cool stuff we can do with Rovo and automations. I'm going to pass it back to Sam to kind of close us out here, talk a little bit about coming webinars and classes, and then also go into some Q&A.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joshua. So as we mentioned on the outset, we have a lot of training that we that we offer free and paid alike. And ultimately, just a couple of things to draw your attention to, and maybe most emergently, we do have a Rovo webinar that's available next week for North American folks at 11 a.m. CST, Central Time Zone. So just be aware that that's coming up and is obviously germane to all the things that Joshua was just kind of talking about on a high level. But please take a moment to also just take a look at what all the other classes and free content that we have coming down the pipeline. Some really exciting stuff. Again, a lot of it free to you. Please also strongly encourage you to connect with Joshua and I on LinkedIn. It is an avenue where you guys can either ask us questions or feel free also to reach out to us directly by email, as you see on the screen. But those QR codes will redirect you to our respective LinkedIn accounts where we would love to connect with you. Again, talk more about some of the concepts and things that we've been talking about today. And so with that, I would really like to jump into, with 10 minutes left, some of the questions that we have. And I've been making some attempts at answering, or hopefully answering, some of the questions in the chat. I know we have a couple, Joshua, that are outstanding and are kind of more on the Forge development side of things. And so just wanted to maybe pitch that over to you, but I can read this first one here. Do you have intention to develop an infrastructure that is available on-prem? OpenAI is a no-go for sure, but if you like, or if you plan on building your own deployable models, I would like to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I can answer that a little bit. So the way that Atlassian Intelligence works as of right now is that it's actually a combination of in-house Atlassian models and OpenAI. That's where Sam was talking about how we kind of have this setup where they essentially individually send each input that you send to OpenAI, and has this process that keeps the context basically pulled out of the request that's sent to OpenAI, handles everything with the context of your whole system in Atlassian Cloud. Now, the question here, right, is also about like running it locally and on-prem. And fundamentally, we're talking about a cloud product, and so that's going to be something that presents an additional hurdle. I don't necessarily think that there are no solutions to that, but as of right now, like Atlassian Cloud Platform as a cloud platform, the focus is for those tools to be built in that platform, and the security behind it is the same as everything else in your Atlassian Cloud Platform already. So we can reach out to Atlassian and kind of have that conversation as well, right? We can, see where that's moving. But I would expect that in some shape or form, we're going to be mostly dealing with the cloud solution. Whether that always goes out to OpenAI or not, I don't know the answer to it. We'll have to see that over time. But for right now, I don't know of any open initiatives to kind of create that process.
Awesome. Another one on the Forge side. How does Forge code deal with the routine system upgrades to Jira and Confluence? Does it require opening the hood every month or quarter to revalidate when new features are added?
Yes, that's a great question. So the way that Forge works generally is it has um, basically a section in the code base where you define all of the scopes of what that Forge app is allowed to do. So you basically tell it you can read Jira issues, you can write the Confluence pages, and it can only do those things. So the only time that you have to, go under the hood and reevaluate necessarily on those Forge apps is if you want to give more or less access to features to that Forge app specifically. So there is a possibility that over time, as the Forge platform develops, you might need to stay up to date with Forge as a platform. But generally speaking, as features get added and changed and updated in Jira and Confluence and other Atlassian products, that's not going to require you to reevaluate everything in a Forge app. It will only do that if you change the structure or what permissions you need from that Forge app to the rest of those products.
Awesome. Thanks, Joshua. Just wanted to read a couple too that I answered while Joshua was presenting as well, just for the rest of the group. This one's pertaining to the automation rule creation that I was demonstrating. Do we have to be very specific on the ask? Like if I said parent, does it auto assume that I mean the subtask parent story and not parent linked? That's a great question. And my answer, I included, or I encouraged that we test this out. I was kind of saying a lot of times it's helpful to have the context as a Jira admin to kind of help AI along to get you more accurate results. But again, I would encourage you to test it yourself, just to kind of see, kind of like what I was doing during the webinar. Maybe try some more ambiguous prompts to see what it does with it. It may surprise you. But as I mentioned in the chat, please feel free to reach out to me. My email's on the screen right now. Happy to kind of work through some of those test cases with you specifically. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a really good one too. This is pertaining to HIPAA. So, what are the workarounds to HIPAA compatibility, especially since this version does not support at this time? So, just want to make a clear delineation between AI HIPAA compliance and then also overarching Jira HIPAA compliance. So, as of February of last year, Jira and Confluence specifically are HIPAA compliant, and I shared a document which I can actually share also potentially in the chat with everyone else, a community article that actually talks about what that would look like within Jira and Confluence. So I just want to make sure I'm making a clear distinction between HIPAA compliance and Jira products specifically and HIPAA compliance with AI. Um, so just keeping that in mind, but the products themselves are HIPAA compliant, just Atlassian Intelligence isn't necessarily at this time. And then another question, and then I want to jump back to some of our live ones that came out. When will this be available for data center? Kind of in my response, just to echo what I shared, just personal opinion, I would be surprised if Atlassian Intelligence gets piped over to data center only because the trend, at least nowadays, seems that Atlassian's pumping a lot of development and new feature sets into cloud versus data center. I can't say with any level of authority that they will never bring it over to data center. I would just be personally surprised if they do. Let's put it that
Yeah, and
way.
more context on that as well, right? Is you think about what Atlassian Intelligence is as a product and how the cost of it scales. The cost of running Atlassian Intelligence on your instance scales with the amount of data that you have. So in cloud, then it scales along with the way that your cloud instance scales, and Atlassian then has control over the scaling of both your instance itself and the AI product that you're using on it. Where DC presents
Hmm.
the challenge that in order to run something like AI, we have to run on very high performance, large amounts of resources types of servers. We need to scale that along with the data. And so essentially, there's no way for Atlassian to guarantee that that product can work on-prem because of that scaling not being under their control if it is in data center. And so it's that mismatch of the scaling and the amount of resources it takes to run AI that makes it very challenging for any sort of data center product to get to that point. So like Sam said, we don't have a definitive idea either way of what Atlassian plans to do, but I would assume that at least for the foreseeable future, the cloud is going to be where we get the core feature set for Atlassian Intelligence because of the way that that can scale.
Yeah, perfect. And then getting a couple of questions, and Joshua, you might be able to answer this, and I think I know the answer, but um, we're asking, will Rovo also be free like AI for premium customers, or is it a free feature for premium customers? I believe it's at the enterprise level, but Joshua, do you know for sure?
Yeah, so Atlassian Intelligence is included with your license at those levels. Rovo is not. Rovo it's its own product. So Rovo has its own separate licensing and it is not just included with the instance. So it has its own separate cost. We could talk a little bit more about that. I mean, we will in the Rovo specific webinar next week, but it is a separate product with separate licensing that has its own cost associated to it.
Yeah, perfect. And what you were talking about too, Joshua, just to dovetail with that question, similar question about Rovo and Premium, which you just answered, but ultimately, is Rovo required for virtual agents?
Yeah, so virtual agents are not part of the Rovo product. They're part of Atlassian Intelligence. So you don't need Rovo for that piece. What you need Rovo for is a Rovo agent, of course, right? So if you want to take what virtual agents can do and kind of expand on them and be able to take action with like Forge agents and be able to have these different tools that we're talking about with Rovo, you need Rovo for that. But the tool itself of virtual agents is not the part of the Rovo product, which is that separate license.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, another question I answered in the chat, just shifting gears a little bit. Somebody had asked, I have access to the summarize button in Confluence, but my coworker does not, and I can't find where to set that. So what I shared in the chat and what I shared during the presentation, Atlassian Intelligence is switched on at the org admin level. There's literally a toggle for it that you can interact with on a per product basis. It sounds like it's in the product that you mentioned in Confluence, but not available for your coworker. I will say within Jira, in one of my test instances, I had to flip on like this new user experience in order to be able to see Atlassian Intelligence, even though Atlassian Intelligence had been flipped on. I wonder if it's a similar situation that your coworkers experiencing in Confluence. As I shared in the chat, please feel free to reach out to me directly via email. Happy to jump on a call with you to kind of understand what's going on there and hopefully help you iron that out. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me.
I see one more question in the chat about restricting Confluence pages for the role-based access control and if those pages can use Atlassian Intelligence. So Atlassian Intelligence and Rovo fundamentally as products and as tools are capable of understanding the role-based access of your Atlassian products. So when you ask Rovo chat for information in a Confluence page, you will only get information you have access to. The same is true about Atlassian Intelligence. You can only utilize it on what you have access to, and the information that it has access to is based on the role and permissions of the user. So that's one of the really powerful things and integrations that we get out of Atlassian Intelligence that we don't have to build ourselves, is that it has that role-based access built directly into it with the engines that already are behind role-based access in Atlassian cloud products.
Awesome. All right, folks. Well, first of all, thank you for all the questions. These were some really awesome questions. It makes it more fun for Joshua and I too, on a purely selfish basis, to have some interaction with you guys. Really appreciate the level of engagement today. With that, I know we're over the hour here, so just wanted to offer some closing remarks. Again, sincerely thank you for all your attention during this time. We encourage you again to reach out to us on LinkedIn or via email. We'd love to get in touch with you, answer any additional questions that you may have that come to mind even after this webinar concludes this week and the weeks coming. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you again. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.